One of the most common set of questions I get is around using poles for trail running. Not just how to use them, but when and how to choose from different models, and even how to travel with them on a plane. So in this video, part of my Trail Running 101 series, I'm going to break all of that down. Plus, I'll cover some of the common mistakes that I see runners make when they're new to using poles. And if you're a Lecky pole user, then stick around for a bonus pro tip at the very end. Let's start with the obvious question. When should you use poles?
Have a great day on the trails!
Well, assuming we're talking about race day, the first thing is to check whether poles are even allowed. Many races, especially those around 50 kilometers or less, don't actually allow poles. And this is usually for safety reasons when you have large packs of runners on narrow single track. If poles are allowed, the next thing I look at is the elevation profile. There's no magic number here. It's more about how much time I expect to spend climbing versus running on flatter or rolling terrain where I'd end up just carrying the poles. They're most helpful on long, sustained climbs, like in races through the Alps or the San Juans. Events like Tour des Géants or Hard Rock 100 are classic examples. Pretty much everyone is using poles in those races, whether they're front or back of pack. When in doubt, just browse some race photos from previous years. You'll usually get a pretty clear idea of what most runners are doing. When it comes time to buy a pair, you've got some options. Running poles differ from hiking poles mainly in weight. They're usually much lighter, often thanks to their carbon fiber construction, which unfortunately makes them less durable and more expensive. And most running poles are also fixed length and non-adjustable to make them lighter still. The Black Diamond Distance Carbon Z poles are super popular, at least in North America. They fold into a Z shape, or Z depending on where you're from, and snap together quickly. You'll notice they have a simple and familiar strap system, similar to hiking or alpine ski poles. And this is where I see even experienced runners making a common mistake. It's tempting to simply put your hand through the strap from the top and to grab the pole like this, but that will put a lot of pressure on your wrist. Instead, come in from the bottom and put your hand over the strap to grab the pole. You may need to loosen the strap a little for this to work. This will give you a lot more power and follow through without that pressure on your wrist. Then there are higher-end poles like these from Lecky, which I've switched to recently. They've got a proprietary glove system instead of a strap, which is like a pole for Nordic skiing. These special gloves have a loop that clips in and out of the poles. I find it gives me more power, especially on the follow-through. But Lecky poles are more expensive, a bit more fragile due to the ultralight materials, and they take some getting used to. Still, there's a reason that most elites use them. If you can afford the best, then the Lecky Ultratrail FX1 Superlight is the model you're going to want, but you may want to save them for race day. The model just below that, the Ultratrail FX1, are a little heavier but reinforced at the attachment points, which makes them better suited for regular training. I'll link to all three of these options in the video description. And make sure you get the right length. A good rule of thumb is that when standing on flat ground, your elbow should be at about a 90-degree angle when holding the pole. If you're planning to race with poles, you should train with them too. Using poles well takes practice. You'll want to develop some muscle memory and also build a bit of upper body endurance. Ideally, bring them on your long runs, since those are where we tend to simulate race day conditions. We dial in nutrition and test our gear. And that brings me to how to actually use poles. Now, there are a few techniques you'll want to practice, and the main difference between these all is cadence and how much help you're getting from your upper body. So let's go through these one at a time. The first is hiking while using a single pole at a time. This one should be pretty obvious. You're basically just placing a pole with the opposite arm from the foot that's hitting the ground. When power hiking with a higher cadence, you might want to occasionally use both poles at the same time. I tend to alternate between single and double poling when power hiking, but double poling is definitely going to give you more power. When running on less steep terrain, you can use either of these two patterns, but you'll likely plant your poles every 2 or even 3 steps, depending on your pace, because your arms probably won't be able to swing your poles that fast otherwise. And again, I'll often alternate between single and double poling. But double poling is going to give you more power here too, and you can even use it to pole vault yourself over puddles and other obstacles. Lastly, you can incorporate a staggered or offset rhythm. This is sort of a hybrid between the single and double pole pattern. I kind of like to have fun with it by switching between these different patterns. It can keep things interesting on a really boring stretch of flat terrain. Another mistake I often see though is using poles only for balance. But when using a technique like double poling, you can generate a lot of forward momentum, especially if you commit to the follow-through. Think of it more like Nordic skiing rather than downhill, where you're trying to propel yourself forward and not just pivoting or stabilizing. And yes, poles can be used on the downhills too. They help with balance and can reduce some of the impact on your knees on steep or technical descents. But never use the straps when running downhill. That's just asking for trouble. It's just way too easy to get caught up, which can lead to tripping and falling. So whenever I'm running with poles, or even when walking through really technical terrain, especially boulder fields, I take my hands out of the straps and just hold them normally. This way I can easily let go if need be, and hopefully avoid breaking a pole, which I've done several times over the years. Worst case, especially when running downhill, you could trip over your poles and really hurt yourself. And avoid boardwalks completely. It's just too easy to get the tips caught in between the boards, and I've seen people break their poles this way even without straps. When I'm not using my poles, I'll often just hold them both in one hand, especially if I think I might need them again soon. But you can also buy a specially designed quiver from Salomon, which attaches to the Advanced Skin series of vests. Otherwise, just use the loops that come with most packs to attach them directly to the pack. Or consider a running belt. Many are designed for this purpose. If you're traveling with poles, you'll unfortunately need to check them. You may occasionally be able to get away with carrying them on, but I really don't think it's worth the risk of having them confiscated by security. Watch my other video with tips for traveling to races, which I'll link to below. Okay, last pro tip for those using Lecky poles. Over time, the glove loops can start to get a little sticky and difficult to clip into, but a tiny bit of squirrel's nut butter or body glide on the loop can help it slide right in. And thanks to Sage from VO2 Max Productions for that one. Be sure to check out the other videos in my Trail Running 101 series. Just click the playlist in the corner. And if you found this video helpful, give it a like and be sure to subscribe so that you never miss a future video in the series.